From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of connecting two Jews, Parshat Vayigash. If you look in Parshat Vayigash, it's all about connecting two Jews. Vayigash Elav Yehuda, Yehuda who represents one whole ideology, and Yosef who represents a whole other typology. They can come together, and ultimately all the brothers come together and they reunite. But what was it that helped the brothers realize who he was? After all, V'hem lo hikiru, said in last week's parsha that they couldn't recognize each other. He was Egyptian. He had a bigger beard than he used to, and they really didn't recognize who he was. How did they come to realize that yes, this really is Yosef? We find two basic themes. One the Rashi, one Ramban, perhaps some others in between. Rashi says, "Vayomer geshunai elai vayigashu," that he said to them, "Approach me here," and they approached. And then he said, he said, "I am your brother who sold you here," and he showed them his bris milah. He showed them that he is mahul. He was circumcised, which in those days I guess was very unusual. And it showed that he was indeed of the Jewish faith, of the Abrahamic tribe, and he was indeed their brother. So it's through the bris milah, through that covenant, that one Jew connects with the other. However, later he says, you see that kifi amdaber alechem, that you can see it's my mouth that's speaking to you. And the question is, what do you mean my mouth? How do you mean they can see that it's his mouth speaking to them? Well, what does that mean? So Rashi says, and some of the many commentators agree that I'm speaking to you directly. There's no melitz, there's no interlocutor, there's no translator here. It's me, I'm speaking to you, Lashon HaKodesh, I'm speaking to you in the holy tongue, in Hebrew, so it must be me. Comes the Ramban and says, really? You know, if you look at Nebuchadnezzar, he spoke a little bit of Hebrew. Abraham himself didn't originally speak Hebrew, he spoke Aramaic, or whatever he spoke up in Aram, and then he came down to Israel and he spoke Canaanite. It's really Canaanite. And Canaan and Egypt are nearby, they're trading partners. So if you're Egyptian, if you're a smart guy like Yosef, a leader in Egypt, then surely you might know Hebrew. That doesn't prove that you're Jewish. So Ramban says, it's just clear that from the fact that they're speaking to each other and told him that he's his brother, it's clear, you know it is. Even your brother, even Benjamin, who's my close brother, my full brother, even he can tell. It's obvious. Anikarim divrei emet, when something is true, it's just obvious. But it raises an interesting question. What does connect two Jews? Sometimes I'll find myself a tourist trip somewhere in Washington or something, and all of a sudden I see another Jew. How do I know they're Jewish? There are different ways. Sometimes it's Lashon HaKodesh. I hear Hebrew being spoken, so I know, there's an Israeli family. I'll try to talk to them, engage them in Hebrew. We can connect, and they see me in my kippah, and that may or may not be a connect. They say, well, I don't wear a kippah, so it's not a connection. But I talk to them in Hebrew, all of a sudden there's a connection. Or two Jews see each other, and they're both looking at a window in New Orleans at a Jewish gift shop, and they see a menorah, and they connect, and they're connecting over the mitzvot, over Jewish practices. That helps connect one Jew with the other. They see the tzitzit flying out of someone's shirt, and they say, that's the connection of one Jew to the other. But ultimately, that's an interesting question. Is it the brit? Is it the very fact that we have a covenant together? Or is it more of some of the outer trappings that connects one Jew to the other? What is the ultimate, deepest connection of one Jew to the other? Why is it that I love every Jew? Is it because of the brit? Is it because of the covenant that we share together with God, the mitzvot that they do and that I do? Or no, it's deeper than that. It's about the brit milah, which 95% of Jews have a brit milah, because it's just a basic thing that we have this covenant with God. Brit meaning not circumcision, but covenant with God. We have a basic relationship with God. We have that same story going back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Mount Sinai, Moses, and that's what connects one Jew with the other. Or is it lo shinu et shmam ulevusham? In Egypt, ultimately, they would be connected because they wouldn't change their names. They wouldn't change their dress. They would speak Hebrew. They would have Jewish names, and these things would connect one Jew with the other. They were going to live in Goshen. They were going to live in a sort of a ghetto of Jewish people there in Egypt, so that they would continue to have their ethnic identity. Rashi says, what's lahorot is to teach that when Judah went to scout out the land of Goshen for Jacob, he was going to set up a Beit Talmud, to set up a house of learning, because it's ultimately the learning that connects one Jew with the other. Ultimately, it's all of the above. Ultimately, each Jew connects in a different kind of way. But if we ask at the most basic level what connects one Jew with the other, it's just that family connection. It's that relationship with God, our story, our shared story, that you can't deny. This is such an important message at this time of year, as this Erev Shabbat, we're commemorating the Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet, where the siege that was against Jerusalem. The nations of the world came and the Babylonians made a siege, later on the Romans, a siege on Jerusalem. And ultimately we were stuck together, all Jews were stuck together. But ultimately, if we want to rebuild Jerusalem, we have to undo the sins of the past, the sinat chinam, the needless hatred. And we undo the sins of the past. How? By needless love. We have to love and connect one Jew with the other. We see a Jew, maybe I have a kippah and he doesn't, or maybe he doesn't and I do. And we have to connect and realize we all have that Brit Milah, we all have that connection of the covenant with God, man, woman, or child. We all have that covenant with God. We ultimately connect through our Torah, we connect through our mitzvot, we connect through our language, we connect through our land. There are so many connections. But ultimately, there's a deeper connection that's inexplicable. It's like Ramban says, Kifi amdaber alechem. You know it's me. You know it's me. One Jew connects with the other. Why? Because you can tell this guy's a Jewish guy. This gal's a Jewish gal. And I'm connected. I know it. I know it in my kishkas. I know it in my soul, my heart. I have that special connection. When Jews feel that connection one with the other, we can build this project of building the land of Israel, the project of keeping the Torah going, the project of keeping this family going with this tradition of morality, which can ultimately inspire the whole world. Thank you for joining us here at the Sephardi Beth El's congregation. Weekly discussions of the Parsha and the holidays. Join us each week for these discussions. Thank you so much to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.